For our extra special, and we're serving bread, like Judith said, recently the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, raised alarm over the safety of bread sold in our markets. Alarming. According to NAFDAC, many of the bread products are failing laboratory tests due to the use of saccharine, a cheaper and potentially harmful substitute for sugar.
Now, this revelation is not only concerning for consumers, but also raises questions about the practices within the bread-making industry, I beg your pardon, especially given the current economic challenges. And so, to help us understand this, we are joined by Onuorah Emmanuel. He is the president of the Premium Breadmakers Association of Nigeria, to shed light on these concerns and what the industry is doing to ensure the safety of bread sold in Nigeria. Mr. Onuorah Emmanuel, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. You came with a T-shirt, Pban.
Yeah, Pban.
Yeah, that's very good.
Yeah, that's it, Pban.
I promised we're going to serve bread.
Premium Breadmakers Association of Nigeria.
That's good.
You didn't come with the bread. You didn't come with the bread.
Ah.
The prices are soaring. People are, embracing shop practices. We just learned that there was this talk about what did they call it? Dangerous bread. Something about bread not even going bad when you store it. And then this one where ingredients like sugar is being substituted for saccharine. What's the gravity of the situation currently regarding this?
Thank you once more for having me. You know, when I saw this report, was it about 2 weeks ago? Yeah, we were taken aback, but it wasn't NAFDAC National. It wasn't Professor Adeyeye. It was the Ibadan office that actually came up with this. Meaning that whatever they're trying to say there is localized. It's not a national thing. Yeah, it was Ibadan that came up, the LSO in Ibadan also, that came up with this report. It wasn't the NAFDAC National. But that's not trying to hold brief for anybody. The truth is, bread making is intricate, yes. Bread making materials are soaring, but I speak for Pban. I don't talk for others. I talk for my members because we have our do's and don'ts in Pban. We have our core values that we all adhere to strictly. We have our constitution that binds us as Pban members. You know, for you to be a Pban member, mark that word Pban, Premium Breadmakers Association of Nigeria. What does it tell you? It tells you that we are premium. Most of us that are Pban members are people that have worked and done well in their spheres of endeavor before they dovetailed into making bread. For instance, I'm a petroleum engineer. I worked in oil and gas for 24 years. In Pban, we have more than 5,000 in-class experience of people that have excelled in their places of, their choices of endeavor, and they came into bread making, running company, running businesses, you know, with good amount of personnel, with good amount of quality personnel that will help you run your businesses the right way. So we are zero tolerance to the use of harmful additives.
Mr. Onuorah, I have to ask, one of the reasons cited for this production that we're seeing and this substantial production of bread that we're seeing is the rising cost of sugar, one of the key ingredients. And so I have to ask, can you give us a sense of, you know, what bread makers and manufacturers of bread are facing in terms of the high cost of food that is now into production?
Well, I will always say this, Mazino, I will always speak for Pban, and I will keep saying Pban, because that's the much I know. I have a constitution that binds me. Look, in Pban, we tell our members, please, as our ground norm, before you become a member of Pban, 1, you must be NAFDAC certified. 2, you must have an address. 3, you must use the right components of equipment that is environment friendly, and you must endeavor to use the right ingredients. We frown at the use of unwholesome materials to make bread. So having said that, let us now come into bread making. And that is why in Pban, rather than cut corners, rather than be involved in any shenanigan, what do we do in Pban? We adjust our prices and maintain our quality, because we know that what people are eating tells who they are. What you ingest goes into you and does a lot of harm to you. Of course, we cannot run away from the fact that there are so many cases of renal failure today in Nigeria, people having all sorts of diseases today. If it's not this, tomorrow is mpox or whatever you call them.
Do the members of Pban face challenges, economic challenges when it comes to production? What are some other ingredients that you are paying higher than you normally would a year ago besides sugar?
Everything has spiked. At the beginning of this year, in the last 3 weeks, let me just tell you, flour added about 7,000 naira. Flour added about 7,000 naira. Margarine, the one we use, 15 kg, different brands, that was going for about 25,000. In less than a month, it added 10,000. It's going for about 36,500. D2 for yeast. Yeast that was going for about, a month ago, was going for about 50,000. It's now going for 62,000 naira. Milk, the same thing. Of course, egg. Egg has been just a bit stable, hovering between 4,800 to 5,000, a crate. Then you talk of the ascorbic acid or the softeners. The softeners are those things that make the bread very soft and luscious for when you want to consume them. So that one was about, at the beginning of last month, it was about 1.3 million. It's spiked to 2.6 million. So in all of these things, you know, all our costs, all our ingredients are spiking simultaneously.
What about the main ingredient, which is flour, which is imported, and then the government's new policy that helps with the import duties, negating that you have to pay these import duties if you're bringing in these products?
Well,
has that helped in any way? Or will it help?
No, it will help in the long run. Maybe in the next 1 month or 2 months, let us see how it pans out with the millers, because the millers too, they have their own challenges. I keep saying it. They have their own challenges. They produce these materials for us to use to make bread, okay? They have their own challenges. So the only thing we are saying is, as millers, you know, you don't gouge your price, because there are, I think, about 2, 3 or 3 big millers that are currently servicing the entire country, meaning that there's maybe the possibility of a duopoly or a monopoly, as the case may be.
Wait. 3 millers serving 36 major.
3 majorly.
And when we say major, how many machines are we looking at?
They are quite big. They service the whole country.
You say big. Give me a picture.
I'm not in that industry, but I know they service
Have you
the
visited
country.
any of them?
Yes, I've done.
How big is it?
They are very big. They are at Papa Tinkan. They are at Papa Wharf. They are massive. They are very, very big.
I'll tell you something. I worked there as a youth.
They are big.
So I can tell they're huge.
They're huge.
Compound.
The facilities are huge. There is, I think they have some of them are located in Warri at the port, and the same thing in Port Harcourt. But it's still basically the same 3, 4 companies that are doing this whole thing. So having said that, yes, let us see what the next 1, 2 months tells us, because the government has said, okay, we are freezing import duties for now, and then the VAT, we are suspending for the next 150 days, is it not? 150 days are to the end, 31st of December. But we are still advocating that it shouldn't end there. They should still push it forward to maybe 2 years, so that we can have the effect of this thing crystallized in bread making. Right?
Okay. So now, regarding the quality that we're talking about, and all this that you've put forward, what has been the reaction from NAFDAC regarding this so far?
Well, like, NAFDAC is our major regulator. Okay, they are a major regulator. Of course, we have, from time to time, they call out the association to various workshops, to various workshops. And what do we do in those workshops? They tell us the do's and don'ts of bread making and all of it. So, but in class, in Pban, we ensure that we have a compliant and provost officer that goes around our bakeries from time to time to check what they are doing, check their dry stores, to check the kind of materials they are using. Let me tell you, there are 2 kinds of nutritive values, nutritive sugars. There's the nutritive, there's the sugar that is nutritive, and then there is the non-nutritive type. The nutritive sugar, which is sugar, gives calories, energy. Those ones are basically the main sugar that we use in bread making. Then there is the non-nutritive type, okay, which we call the sweeteners. Bread making needs this for it to be very sweet. People like bread to be sweet, okay?
Yeah.
Now, in the non-nutritive sweeteners, you have Saccharine there, you have aspartame, you have acetaminophen K, ACK, we call it ACK.
And this is what unscrupulous bread makers use.
No, they don't. For instance, in Nigeria, like in Pban, I tell you, there's what we call the codex. That is, the codex is the Food and Agriculture Organization / World Bank procedure for use of additives in bread making and food generally. Okay? There is nothing bad in the use of the sweeteners to do bread. Not Saccharine, because Nigeria frowns at use of Saccharine, but the ACK, the acetophenone sweetener can be used to make bread. And how do you use that in making bread? You use 1,000 milligram of fat per kg of wheat flour.
I appreciate the detail you're trying to give us now, but I really must ask before we end this show now. You always make sure that you are specific regarding your association. Yeah. However, NAFDAC did tell that there's something going on, and you specified that this was in Ibadan. Now, which other associations might be that perhaps maybe are culpable when it comes to the NAFDAC alert?
I wouldn't know, because there are people, so many bread makers are not in the association.
What's been the Pban's response to that NAFDAC alert as well?
No, okay, the alert on,
yes.
We frowned at it and we protested and we issued a press release that Pban is not part of those people that use Saccharine to do bread.
Your members for Pban, is it just only in Lagos?
No, we are across Nigeria.
Across Nigeria. How many members do you have?
We used to be about 170 bakeries, but because of the downturn in economy, the mortality has hit us by more than, we have shared with by more than 60%.
Wow.
Yeah, and it goes with job losses. Okay, wow. So in Pban, we don't use Saccharine to do bread. But yes, sweeteners are allowed in making bread. The sweeteners that are allowed in making bread is that type that does not react with heat when you put them in the oven, that does not cause problem for people, like the one I just enunciated here, ACK, the raw sugar, you add them together. And let me say this, for those people that are even using Saccharine, it's not good. You know why it's not good? One, it distorts the structure of your bread. It affects your bulk weight. In making bread, there's what we call the bulk weight. Let me give you a synopsis of it. You do 50 kg, if you want to bulk your entire dough weight, you do 50 kg of the wheat, maybe a 10 kg of sugar, you add your margarine, your fat, you do about maybe 1.5 kg, then you add all of these things up into your bowl, mix it, it gives you your dough weight. When you are cutting your dough to size, okay, because the volume is big, it gives you better volume, it gives you better yield, it gives you better quality. Like I told you about the sweeteners uses very minute quantity, meaning that in the use of sugar, instead of doing 10 kg of sugar, you are replacing with about 5 grams. You can see that volume of sugar compared to the 5 grams will affect your bulk weight ultimately, and affect your yield, and affect the structure of your bread, affect the crust of your bread, affect everything about your bread. You understand? So for us in Pban, we say zero tolerance to the use of Saccharine, zero tolerance to the use of unwholesome materials. We use the right type of materials.
Besides the waiving of the import duty on food, and as well as besides that measure that the government has introduced, what are the measures you think the government or policies the government needs to introduce to aid food manufacturing companies, especially bread makers?
Well, what they need to do are numerous and multifaceted in nature. If I may suggest, backward integration is one. Let us ensure that we grow wheat in the country. Let us ensure that the yeast and other materials that we are using, because basically they do most of them 100% import into the country. Ensure that we domicile them in country. Have the factories that are manufacturing it, so that you can drive down the cost of the ingredients, and with that, the prices of bread will at least come down, and then you can be able to create a job for Nigerians in those industries that are set up here. So that is just it. Backward integration, ensure that these things are manufactured in country, and ensure that we aggressively grow wheat in the country, and even the sugarcane, and to ensure that we have a lot of these things that we use in making bread domiciled in country.
When I saw that news about the saccharine, it was very interesting to see that we're back to the early 2000s, where we're back to day one of us fighting against this use of harmful ingredients in food. And so I have to ask you, for members that are not part of, or bread makers that are not part of Pban, what message would you give to them, as well as bread consumers in Nigeria who might be concerned about the safety of the bread that they are purchasing? What should they be looking out for? And also to bread makers, advice to them in cutting corners.
Summarily, please.
Let me say this. I will always talk for Pban. We don't do that and we frown at it. If anybody is involved in that kind of nefarious activities, it is not good. Don't use saccharine, don't use unwholesome material to make your bread. Rather than do that, use the right type of materials. Spike your price a bit so that you maintain your quality. You understand me? And to be very honest, that kind of sweeping statement that was made by the NAFDAC LSO is not good for the industry. It tends to want to demarcate what we are doing as people that are toiling for the country. We feed the nation, but somebody cannot just come out and become very rascally with words and say they are using saccharine. What are the indices the persons use, or the NAFDAC official use? If he just goes to Ibadan, pick up a few bread, you are using it now to tar the entire bread makers. It was done in bad taste. And after the NAFDAC official made that pronouncement, they started making different kind of skits. You can see different kind of podcasts coming out telling Nigerians not to buy bread, that bread is harmful. I saw one yesterday and I was, wow, taken aback. What does this mean? Are they saying that we shouldn't produce bread again because of the nefarious activities of a few Nigerians? No.
So what should consumers look out for when they're buying bread off the shelf? What are some of the signs that you know that, this thing
this is dangerous for me?
This is not.
If you buy your bread, the first thing, if you buy your bread, look out for first the labeling of that bread. Look out for first whether there is a phone number on the bread bag, whether it's whether it has a company name. Then, after looking at that, when you open the bread, you eat the bread. If the bread has harmful addictive, there's what we call aftertaste. And how do you know a bread that has aftertaste? If you eat it, the sweet is terminal. The sweet doesn't when you eat sweet like sugar, it comes and you just eat it, it's sweet and it's just there.
That's it.
Yeah, but if it is laden with saccharine or any bad material.
Doesn't linger.
Yeah, if it lingers.
It lingers
on
the tongue.
Yeah, it lingers in the tongue. And aside lingering, it gives you an aftertaste that is sour in your mouth.
I
And
would
the
have
mouth will
thought
be
that
bitter.
was the good one, actually.
No, that's not
Thanks
the good
for
one.
that
No,
information.
no. Give you that aftertaste. As soon as you eat it, it lingers, and then you get that taste that is sour and bitter.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Mr. Onuorah, I want to say thank you, especially for that piece of information, and thank you for bringing your insights
Thank you very much, Master.
Thank you
into
so much.
this
Thank
matter
you very
here.
much.
And we appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Indeed.